Hey everybody, it's Tuesday evening. It's time for Weather Geeks time. No wintry weather to talk about in the next handful of days, but we do have some rain in our forecast, along with for a lot of us, welcomed warm-up. That warm-up really kicks in tomorrow, but it was one of those situations this morning where a degree or two made a lot of difference. At the airport, it never dropped to 32 this morning. It stayed at 34 or 35, and many communities saw those kind of borderline temperatures this morning, and so that kind of kept our problems with any freezing rain and sleet to a minimum. Most surfaces were just wet, but we did have a few slick spots, a few slushy areas for sure. Lots of school adjustments as a result, but if these temperatures were just dialed down a degree or two, I think the problems would have been a little more widespread out there this morning. We told you it wouldn't be all that big of a deal, and it turned out to be not that big of a deal. In the meantime, we've been dealing with the damp weather for much of this afternoon, and while there's not much on the radar upstream across parts of northern Ohio, central Ohio, it can drip and drizzle and be kind of murky for the rest of the night tonight. And speaking of murky, this is one of those situations that we can see sometimes in the winter where fog can form at weird times of the day. A lot of times in the warmer weather seasons, fog is just a late night and early morning thing. But sometimes, especially when you have warm advection, warmer air pushing in over a snowpack especially, you can get fog even during the middle of the day, during December, January, and February. And tomorrow could be one of those days where actually the fog could try to set up, not first thing in the morning, but maybe towards midday. Nonetheless, so we'll have to be on the lookout for some reduced visibilities, whatever time there might be any fog out there. Just kind of a murky day overall, but hey, it's going to be in the upper 40s, so not too much to complain about. It's not going to rain the entire day. We'll show you Futurecast in just a second. But yeah, this is kind of an unusually moisture-laden pattern for the dead of winter. It's mid-January, but the Gulf of Mexico is wide open. So we're going to see wave of low pressure after wave of low pressure taking advantage of this moisture source. And that's going to keep pumping in the chances for rain here over the next handful of days. One more rain chance over the weekend, particularly late Saturday night. Then drier air will start to win the battle by next week. So how much rain are we looking at when we look out over the next week? I think most of northeast Ohio and northwest PA will not be in the bullseye area. That's going to be down towards Portsmouth, Parkersburg, Marietta, Charleston, Lexington, places like that. Around here, our computer models are advertising over the next week somewhere between 1 and 2 inches worth of rain. That'll be a manageable amount considering this is over a week. This isn't all coming at once. And our snowpack is not super deep here locally. Some places that got 5 or 6 or even 7 or so inches of snow over the weekend, at the start of the weekend. You've already seen some melting, and it's not all melting at once. So I'm not real concerned about a lot of river flooding, but we'll keep a close eye on those streams and rivers and creeks with that kind of forecast over the next several days. But I'll tell you, the pattern is going to change. After an active week this week and even into the weekend, this is the 6 to 10 day outlook. So later next week into that first couple of days of February, not only does it look pretty darn warm, it looks mostly dry as well. But grab the umbrella heading out the door on Wednesday morning. A couple of raindrops around early. Our warm front lifts in, and I think the rain chances will increase as we get into the afternoon. Now, might be some fog and some rain around, but it'll still be in the upper 40s to around 50 Wednesday afternoon. The rain may taper off for a time before kind of reloads towards Thursday morning, and that'll set the stage for another pretty soggy day coming up on Thursday. Looks like the last of the raindrops will depart before daybreak on Friday as we get a little respite in between systems for Friday and the start of the weekend. What we're looking at here is Lake Erie ice concentration. The black line, that's this year, 2024. The red line is 1977. That was the year in which we've had the most ice for the longest amount of time on Lake Erie, including on today's date, almost 100% ice coverage on Lake Erie back in 1977. Of course, we had a couple pretty harsh winters in the late 70s across our region. The green line is 2021, which is the year in which we had the least ice on Lake Erie on today's date, on January 23rd. So we had almost zero. We have more than that now, but could this be the peak? Lake Erie ice coverage right now is about 36%. Usually we don't reach our climatological peak until about Valentine's Day, first or second week of February. But I'll tell you, given the look of the pattern for the next couple of weeks, I think we're going to lose a lot of our 36% ice coverage. And so we might get through the first handful of days of February with almost no ice on Lake Erie, which means it's going to be hard to get a peak around that traditional time. This might be the peak for the season. I think some colder times are ahead as we go deeper into February, but by that point, rising sun angle and that sort of thing, it gets harder to sustain a lot of ice once you get past about Valentine's Day. In the meantime, here's a look at the 8 to 14 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. We're going to show these maps a lot in the coming days because they're going to be dark red. That is for sure. I think right around Halloween, I was going to say, right around Groundhog Day, we've probably got some at least 50s in our future for daytime highs. Give or take a few days, but right around that Groundhog Day period, early on in February, it does look pretty mild. When will it turn colder again? There's some conflicting information on that, but I would say as we get into the second and especially the third week of February, that's when the pattern may become pretty favorable for cold air to return. Will it be as harsh as this past week? It's too early to make that call at this point, but I don't think the early February blowtorch pattern will stick around through the entire month. That's the way it looks right now. Thank you for watching this Tuesday evening edition of the Valley's Most In-Depth Forecast video. Have a great night, everyone. I'll see you back here on Wednesday.